Hello everyone, Turner Burner here with another video for you guys. I'm going to go over Brawler skill cards for mainly Escape, and I'll touch on some what I do for Horde as well when I do play Horde. This is originally Cole's class. I didn't go over this in Operation 5, mainly due to the fact that I really didn't play this class in Operation 5, but now that I'm getting more into it again, doing solos with this class. I actually recently got up to level 20. I feel comfortable doing another skill cards video like I did back in Operation 4. But let's get right into the video. So it says it's a tank class, a force of nature. Brawler brings their own powerful melee moves to the table and uses fire to decimate enemies. The ultimate ability, the train, leave a trail of fire while moving, stagger and ignite enemies nearby. So basically, Cole would say, come get some, and then he would just start using his ultimate to kill everything in his way. So it's kind of a cool ultimate. You're not like immortal in your ultimate or anything, but you get stem upon each, tackle or kill in your ultimate. And I'll get into that in the passive. So the passive is can punch to stun enemies and melee while Rhodey running the tackle. Killing enemies using tackle gives stem. So basically, with every other class, you have to triple combo to meat shield. This class is just one punch, meat shield, and that's it. You don't. So it's like the difference between B, hold B, and hit X. Or with Brawler, you just hit B, then hit X. So that's something you can see in other videos with Brawler or Cole, depending on how you're searching this, and you'll see that that is a strategy to get more meat shields off. And it's actually probably the easiest way to get meat shields, assuming they get stunned by your punch, obviously. And all torch tackles or all tackles in general will give you stem upon the completion of the kill. So yeah, let's get right into the skill cards. So all the glory, at one point this was 50%. I think it went down to 25%, and now it's up to 30%. I'm pretty sure I'm right on those numbers. Anyway, burning enemies explode on kill, dealing 30% HP and damage. So the gist of this is so like if there's enemies nearby, they do explosion to nearby enemies. So you're able to kill a couple of drones at once, a couple of juvies at once. Depends on the context of how the explosion spreads and the distance between that initial hit and the surrounding enemies. Sometimes you may only get one grenadier, or sometimes you can get 3 grenadiers. It just depends on it depends on the spacing of the enemies. At least that's what I've noticed. Enter Fire used to be 52%, and man, it was absurd before when you could stack it with other cards. Sometimes you get over 100% damage resistance in certain contexts. But anyway, now it's appropriately nerfed, so he's a more fair class to use, I would say. Enter Fire, 35% resistance to damage when the train is available. So this is all damage resistance. This includes while running, while not running, venom resistance. So very very strong in that regard because as soon as your ult is ready, it stacks well with damage dash and also Thrashball Pro, which I'll get on to later in the video. So having higher health characters allows you to have higher survivability relative to the enemy. So like if you're dealing with elite drones, you'll survive longer. Really all enemies you'll survive longer, but some of the more lethal enemies like sentinels, elite drones, or devastators, or things of that nature, it'll give you more time before you eventually get downed or something like that. That way you can deal with things longer, as opposed to another class that doesn't have as much damage resistance. So hopefully I explained that well. So perk up, 60% increased max health and regeneration speed. This is one of the mandatory cards, I would say, just so you can have the extra health. And the regen speed is definitely nice, especially on maps that don't have or has regen or penalty as a modifier, like the Split's one of them, the Gauntlet, maps of that nature. So Torch Tackle, tackle burns and deals 275% damage to burning enemies. This is just extra damage towards drones or really anything that you tackle. Obviously, the downfall of that's happened, I believe, starting in Operation 5, maybe 6, one of the two, is when sometimes you'll tackle a drone a certain way, and he'll just die from the tackle damage as opposed to upon the time you get the second tackle off. The downfall of this is because the passive doesn't come into play. So when the passive comes into play when you tackle an enemy and you get the stem off of the tackle. If he dies from burn damage, you don't get any stem, so you don't regain all of your health back. So that could be a reason why you die in certain instances. On the detour, it's not uncommon to tackle a juvie, but not like maybe you tackled it at a certain angle. He doesn't completely die upon that hit. He dies from the burn for some weird reason. That doesn't give you stem. The juvie may die, but it doesn't give you stem. So you just gotta be careful to make sure if something's like on fire about to die, maybe you run away for a second to regain your health because you're not going to get your health back on a successful stem. Damage dash, 40% damage while running. I like this card a lot because it's available all the time. Unlike Inner Fire, which is only available after you get your ult ready, which can be problematic in Escape, depending on the map and depending on if you're getting enough kills. Some of the maps have slow ult charge, so it just depends on the context, how that how well Inner Fire is, or how good you think Inner Fire is. Some maps like Venom Run, you may not get it until the map's already over. So maybe you don't use Inner Fire because it's not useful for the majority of the map. It just depends on the context. But Damage Dash is useful all the time. So for the most part, I want to say that I have this always on. Damage reduction while running. So sometimes you can, I don't want to say you can absorb a popper hit, but if you see a popper nearby, just start running and you're going to increase your damage resistance, as an example. Soothing Warmth I haven't used in a long time. When I did use it, it wasn't that great, but I've heard good things about it recently. So anyway, 275%. Health regeneration is 275% faster and has no delay when 2.5 meters from burning enemies. So that is not that far of a distance. So in general, if you hit something, you kind of want to stay, relatively close to it, as opposed to rolling super far back because you may not get the healing. So just keep them on. It's similar to Lonnie's Thrill of the Hunt, except it's nowhere near as good as Thrill of the Hunt was back in Operation 3, where it was instant. It's not that good, but it may be as good as Thrill of the Hunt is now. Honestly, I haven't used this card in a long time, so if you have more experience with Soothing Warmth, you let me know. But when I used it, it was okay at best, in my estimation, and I haven't really put it on since. I can't find it. As far as cards I typically use on an Escape or Horde level, it just doesn't meet the top 5 skill cards I would use on a particular Escape or Horde match, so I don't even put it on. Burn and Recharge. It's a good card, even though I don't really use it because Brawler has a lot of good skill cards. I'd say about maybe 8 to 10 that are playable on Master. And this, you could use it if you want to get your ult faster, but if you're getting enough kills through burning or, just damage in general, you'll get it relatively quick. Brawler has a relatively quick ult charge. Granted, if you're someone that likes to use the ult often, if you have that type of playstyle, maybe you use this because you just want your ult that much. But honestly, I don't use it in any of my runs. But anyway, ultimate ability recharges 6% faster for each enemy that is currently burning. I've seen this useful on the Corruption mainly, and the Onslaught because of the fact that the modifier and the Trap, the modifier is slow ult charge. Burn Boost, automatically active reload with 60% extra damage after melee killing a burning enemy. I feel like I don't know if I've ever used this card because I feel like too many things have to work together for this card to even be turned on, essentially. So just, you melee kill. I don't know if that counts as tackling. I've never really what is it? Automatically active reload with 6% extra damage. So I never really bought into this card. You could probably stack it well at play with fire, possibly, because you can automatic active reload and you got 30% chance of active rounds. But I feel like it doesn't really work with how I play. So because of how I play, it doesn't really fit into my style. So it's never on. So like if I'm in a so as an example, the solo that you've seen is Brawler on the Onslaught. I did Brawler. I did Cole's class on the Onslaught with the Shock Popper spawn and the Frag Popper spawn. The Shock Popper spawn had a different stack than the Frag Popper, and you can look at those. You can compare the two solos. They look very different. And I had to approach them differently because they have a different set of enemies. Some they have the Grenadiers that, will blast you definitely inside your ult, let alone outside. So, when you have Ender Fire ready. So, I guess what I'm trying to say ultimately is that if I'm melee killing something, if that's the type of game I'm playing, I'm not really also in a play with fire situation where it's like, if I play with fire on, I'm probably not running torch tackle because of the fact that I have the damage resistance cards for health, but I don't have torch tackle on. So I feel like because of the nature of this card, it doesn't really work with my style because I have like a stack where that's meant for more aggressive tackling and getting in their face, and then I have a stack that's meant for more shooting from distance, kind of being like using bullets to kill or burn as opposed to, the typical Cole play style. So, and I'll go over that later in the video. But yeah, Burn Boost, if you have good experience with this skill card, you let me know, but I personally don't. Killing Epic Score Boost speaks for itself. If you're still doing Score Boost, you get 35% increase, in Horde or Escape. Killing time, extend the train by 2.25 seconds per kill during ultimate. I've seen this used highly effectively on the Detour. A buddy of mine got like a bunch of kills right before the third safe room with Juvies, and he had his ult going continuously that whole time. So that was a good strategy on the Detour. I'm sure there's other maps, but the Detour comes to mind first. So good card depending on how you play. If you're someone that likes to use their ultimate a lot, maybe you don't run Ender Fire and you run Killing Time. I ran Killing Time on my Venom run, solo run, that depending on when this is released, you'll either see that before or after this video. But it's very useful because you can get multiple kills at once, and if you're running all the glory, you can continuously blow up enemies nearby and continue your ultimate. So it can be very, very effective depending on the context of how you are playing. Fuel tanks, I don't use Scorcher. It's not on enough maps, and I don't buy it out of the Fabricator and Horde. If you can, I'm assuming you can. Carry 80% extra Scorcher ammo. You let me know if you have good or bad access with the Scorcher. I think it's on 3 maps that I think I saw: the Warren, the Detour. I think I'm forgetting something else. But yeah, the Scorcher cards I don't use. It's just I just think there's other cards that are better. The new cards, I guess, with Operation 5 that they added for this class don't trump the cards they already had. So that's just, in my opinion, that's just the reality of it. Play with fire, 30% chance on active rounds. I used to actually frown upon people who would use this class to shoot bullets. But, when I was trying to do the line with this class, I knew that, and I was just getting back into the class, I hadn't really fully mastered tackling. I knew that I wanted to have a low-risk solo, or the lowest possible risk relative to the class provided, or the class I'm working with. So I was looking at some of the card combinations I wanted to do, and then I thought about it, and I was like, well, 30% chance on active rounds is not as good as, Foz has, the automatic, modified what is crap? I forget what it's called, but the automatic reload card. Where he gets 100% chance, but 30% is not terrible. So if I'm shooting like a pistol or a lancer, you're definitely going to get burnt within that one clip. So once I put that together, I was like, Play with Fire is going to be a good card on the line. So that way I can get Ice Scions from a distance. Ice Scions like to freeze between melees if they're swinging at you, which is not ideal. They can freeze from a distance. And they're probably the riskiest Scion to deal with in general. So because of that, I thought Play with Fire would be a good play to try to kill them from a distance or at least damage them from a distance. Pyromaniac, something you also see if you go back to the Brawler on the line solo, is that it's 100% extra burn damage. So anytime I torch tackle something, it does double the damage, and also with Play with Fire, it also doubles that as well. So it allows me to get extra burn damage on active rounds when they do work or whatever. So that's very good as far as I've actually on one of my solos, I didn't complete it unfortunately, but on one of my solos on the attempts on the Gatekeepers, I was actually able to kill the Swarmac with a Pyromaniac Play with Fire combination. So that was it takes an extremely long time because it's not that great, but it does work really, really well on a map like the Line that has far less health than the Gatekeeper Swarmac. So, and it also works really well on the lethal engagements, even considering the modifiers, the heads-up modifiers. So, if you are more into or want to test it out, the Play with Fire Pyromaniac combination, test it out and see how it works for you. It may not work best with teammates because the teammates are probably expecting you to be only a melee class. So I would probably suggest you loading up a solo. It doesn't have to be master, but just testing it out to see how it works for you. So Scorcher Mastery, 30% extra Scorcher damage. Like I said, I don't use the Scorcher card. Can't justify it, and it doesn't come up often enough. Like I said before, you let me know what you think of the Scorcher card overall. Defensive tackle I haven't used since I was first leveling up Cole. Plus 60% stem on tackle kill. I guess you get extra stem as opposed to the passive already provides. But I find that, the damage resistance cards and the passive in of itself and the speed of enemies dying, I find that enough to justify not using this card. So it's up to you if you want to use it. Maybe, get extra stem. That's totally up to you, really. I haven't used it in a while, though. Glow and Slow, I like a lot. In Horde, the dailies sometimes have aggressive enemies, which I think is the implication that they run faster towards you. I think that's what they were going for. But the gist of it is, I like it to slow down enemies from killing my teammates. So sometimes I do a bullet build where I'm shooting enemies and put them on fire and they slow down. So you definitely notice it, and it's definitely useful to help your teammates not get overrun, So I do like this card, and it's also a good card to use on the line as well, since one of the modifiers is faster Scions. Haymaker, it's up to you if you want to use this card. I haven't used this since it says level 6. I haven't used it since. Excuse me, that's not when. I don't know when this card comes out. I think it comes out level 4 or 6 or something like that. But anyway, I don't think you need to use this card because you're going to one-punch stun drones anyway. If you have this card on, it doesn't one-punch kill drones. If it did that, I would be all for it. But because it doesn't, I don't find it useful at all. Score boost speaks for itself. Increase team score in Horde or time bonus and Escape. Steam Engine, I will never use or ever recommend, but I'll read it for the sake of this video. 115% burn radius during Ultimate. So the gist of it is maybe this stack wells with Killing Time to help you burn enemies nearby. Maybe you have an Ultimate build to where you get your ult maybe every, super often, and you can just, if you have glow and slow, maybe you're burning enemies. You have your ultimate going, you're burning enemies nearby, and you're slowing them down. Could be useful. I don't know. You let me know if you run Steam Engine or if you think it's a good card. Maybe you can educate myself on it. Thrashball Pro, 60% damage or 60% less damage from melee attacks. I think this has always been 60%. It might have been 70 something. It's been so long since I've really looked at them. I feel like this may have been higher. I honestly don't remember. But anyway, this could be a good card on the Warren. Really, any map that has a good bit of juvies or maybe even rejects to get less damage from melee attacks. That's useful for survivability. So if you're going more of a survivability build, then that'll help you survive longer. I know someone I do customs with likes to run Thrashball, Pole, Interfire, and Damage Dash all together because he likes to be, survive longer. There are rare occasions where we need him to go all the glory, but because of the fact that he likes the they spell received wrong. I just noticed that. Melee damage RECEIEVE. Is this spelled wrong anywhere else? Okay, I'm getting distracted. Okay. What is it? Since we do customs, or person I do customs with, sometimes he likes to do the Thrashball Pole in the custom hives, which is useful because there's a lot of enemies everywhere on custom hives because people like to overload their maps. So Thrashball Pro tends to be useful because you have no idea where you're going to get hit from. All the glory has value, but since there's a regen penalty on custom hives, you really don't want to get your teammates hurt. You want to get your teammates hurt as little as possible. So this is I can't believe they spelled received wrong like this. They spelled it wrong on another thing too, but this is a good card to use if you want to survive getting hit or punched. Obviously, juvies is the first thing that comes to mind. Really anything comes to mind. Now that I'm thinking about it, where it's just getting hit and surviving, especially if you miss a tackle, very, very useful to continue the game and move forward. But that is the gist of this class. I'm going to go over, I'd probably say 2. There's a bunch of stacks I could probably do for Brawler, but I'm going to do 2 escape stacks. And then the second escape stack, you can kind of transfer to Horde if you want to. But I think I have the Horde one already set up, so I think I can just go straight to it. So this is being filmed on March 14th, so whatever the daily was on the 13th had aggressive enemies. So this is what I decided to run for Horde. So play with fire, torch, tackle, glow and slow, pyromaniac, interfire. Am I as good as your typical classes that uses bullets like veteran, marksman? No. But if you want to change a pace, then this is something you can do. You can do if you don't feel like running around. You want to give your B button a break. This is a stack you can do to get more burn damage, slow them down, and just chill from a distance and shoot your Lancer. Interfire because that damage resistance is still good to have. It's not good to run nothing. It's always good to have something. And Torch Tackle, just in case an enemy gets too close, you can still do that. And that stacks well with Pyromaniac for, larger enemies like, or higher health enemies like, what am I missing? Scions or Pouncers, things of that nature. So, bosses, it's literally just okay. So hopefully you have teammates to help you. But for regular enemies, I'd say it's definitely this is a definitely good stack. So for escape, let me see if I have something already ready. So this is the traditional build: all the glory, perk up, torch tackle, damage dash, interfire. It's safe. Everyone's used to it. It's easy. So this is the build you can do if you want to. It's the traditional build. There's really nothing wrong with it. But if you want to change a pace, something I did on my Onslaught solo run is I swapped out I took off all the glory and I put on Play with Fire, and I took off Torch Tackle and I put on Pyromaniac. So for the Onslaught solo run, I still have the damage resistance, Inner Fire, Damage Dash, and Perk up if I needed to like run out of a situation. But all the damage I'm doing is with Pyromaniac and Play with Fire. The important part about the comparing, if you compare the two Onslaught solo runs I did, when I had Play with Fire and Pyromaniac, I'm able to burn Grenadiers from a distance. Without Inner Fire, like if I had the traditional build, since there's slow ult charge, without Inner Fire and those Grenadiers are just rushing me like that, there's almost no way I'll survive. Honestly, if it was just one Grenadier, it's 50-50. So, and since it's usually like 3 or 4 at once, especially with a drone and a popper, I gotta be more careful. So I needed bullets. I need to kill things from a distance to give myself some space from the enemies. So I chose the Play with Fire and Pyromaniac build, and it worked well. I got the win on Onslaught. So that's an example Horde stack, example, and 2 example Escape stacks. So that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know how you like the Brawler solo runs if you want more. I don't think anyone else is doing them anymore. Overall, besides I've done a few recently. No correction. That's not true. I've seen a couple of solos with Brawler. That's true. That's not true what I just said. So yeah, this class I think is still alive and well, even though it's been nerfed. But even though it's still nerfed, it's still a very strong class. Most of these classes are good classes. But with that being said, thanks for listening, guys. If you have any questions on this class or corrections on something I may have missaid, let me know. And obviously, to end this video, just remember I before E, except after C. Thanks, guys.